What's going on, everyone? My name is Johnny Bandon, and I'm your CCNA instructor for this CCNA video series. In this video, we're going to be going over network architecture. So this is the topologies, the different types of way we can lay out our networks. We're going to go over LAN, WAN, campus networks, the Cisco three-tier topology, spine and leaf topology. We're going to go over what a full mesh is, what a star or bus topology is. So this video, again, another important video of our network fundamentals. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So first thing, we're going to start small, right? So what is a LAN? So a LAN is a local area network. That's what the acronym stands for. But this is just a collection of devices that are together in a physical location that are all connected on a shared medium, right? So the term LAN is also typically just used when you're describing either your small office network or the layer 2 infrastructure of your enterprise, okay? So sometimes people, when working in industry, these terms don't have different meanings. A LAN does always mean what it is, your local area network, the local network to you inside your enterprise, inside your network, not out to the internet, right? But sometimes a LAN can mean different things to different professionals that you're talking to, where you may have a big sprawling campus network across a geographically diverse region or metropolitan area, and they'll call that the LAN, right? Where maybe you work in office A, office B is 10 miles down the road, and you guys may have some VPLS or layer 2 connection, tunnel connection, and they consider their LAN your LAN. And in some cases, that may be how it's architectured out. But with the CCNA exam, we keep things simple, right? Because we're here for a certification and to gain some real world knowledge, because I don't want to train you and you don't know anything going into the job, right? But local area network typically means a shared medium that all the users in one physical location are using to interconnect, okay? So typically, we think of LAN, we think of our switching network. Even though we do have that layer 3 routed interface there that is part of our LAN, that's our default gateway. But again, that is what a LAN is. And then we have the WAN. So a wide area network is a collection of interconnected local area networks. So what a WAN connection is, and a lot of people also misinterpret this. A WAN connection is just an interface on your routing device that connects you off to another routing device. So this connection right here, these routers both have LANs like on their inside network, on their internal network. Well, this WAN connection connects those two, right? So a wide area network is your connection outside of your organization. So if you think about a router or a routing device, again, I say routing device because we can have a multi-layer switch we do in our routing. That interface here, or maybe the other interface we're using for a multi-homed network, those are both considered WAN connections, where a lot of people think the WAN is synonymous to the internet, which isn't necessarily true. A WAN is any connection that combines or allows two separate local area networks to be interconnected. Okay. Then we have a MAN. In my time as a network administrator, I've never heard someone use the term MAN in conversation. They say the campus network or our sprawling network, whatever, our CAN site. But a MAN is a term that is in the networking field, and it stands for a metropolitan area network. And this is a network that spans a large metro area or like cities of multiple cities, right? And it's all one organization. So what we could have here is, so I'm from Phoenix, so I use cities in Phoenix, is we could have our organization here, Queen Creek, Chandler, and Gilbert, all in the East Valley of Phoenix. This office could have this multi-layer switch here that has like a VPLS connection, like a layer 2 connection over here and over here, using the transparent fiber underneath the ground, right? Maybe we just have fiber connections between multi-layer switch to multi-layer switch. And then we maybe have a connection out to the internet here, or maybe we tunnel. Either way, we have what seems like directly connected networks here that are connecting our LANs without making an actual WAN connection, right? So a MAN is typically seen with these large organizations that have these big offices, but within a reasonable geographical distance, right? And reasonable, again, is kind of subjective, but that's what a MAN network is. A MAN network could also be an ISP that has POPs all around the metropolitan area that you control, that is technically considered just that ISP's network, right? Even though you're giving ISP connections to the customer, right? So a couple of different examples. Another one I want to talk about, and I'm going to go back, something called a campus network, which is really just a huge, think about a university like ASU. Again, I'm from Phoenix. A huge campus. You have a downtown Phoenix campus and the Tempe campus. That spans a huge amount of geographical distance, right? That campus network is going to have a lot of switching backbone and a lot of different networks in it. And do you say that my LAN, when you're in the physics office and that ASU Enterprise is connected all the way to the downtown office? Yeah, you could say that's part of the LAN, or you could say that's part of your campus network or your MAN network. It really just depends who you're talking to and how you're architectured out your networking services and your layer 2 infrastructure, right? So a campus network to me would be, we work at a big, Intel plant, and we just have multi-layer switches that are connecting different parts of that compound. And we may have that layer 3 connection here. And that's all part of our campus network, okay? Okay, another term that you need to know for the CCNA exam is called SOHO. It stands for small office, home office. So since I didn't write that bullet point out for it, small office, home office. And this is literally what I'm talking, how I'm making this video, right? It's just an all-in-one device that does your switching, your routing, your wireless access points, right? Right, this is my home router. It does everything. And the important thing to know is that SOHO networks use a single broadband connection to enable multiple users, right? So just in my little network here, if I was to do like an Nmap scan, you would see all my computers, my TV, my cell phones, all connected to this one central device that's using one connection out to the internet, right? So that's what a SOHO network is. Very simple, very cheap. If you have literally a small office on a strip mall somewhere where you're just doing insurance claims, your own company, and there's 2 employees, you're going to want a SOHO network, right? Okay, now let's get into some more specific Cisco architecture. So we're going to get into the 3-tier core topology. And this is a large campus network design that has been around for a while in Cisco and has gone through changes throughout the years. But for the CCNA exam, this is what they want you to learn. And this is really the terms you're going to hear a lot when working in those large enterprises. Core layer, distribution layer, the access layer, right? So the 3-tier core topology is going to split up your large campus networks, your LANs, into 3 different layers, each with their own specifically designed purpose. And the hardware is going to be different because of the traffic load and the aggregation that we're doing at the different layers. So this is going to be built for a large campus network for performance and the best way to manage those devices, especially if you're doing a traditional networking. So we'll start at the access layer, actually. So the access layer is going to be where all your endpoints connect to. Endpoints, typically your actual computers, your VoIP, right? Your VTC machines, your printers. They're going to all want to connect to the access layer. So the access layer connects all the end devices to the enterprise so they can access their network resources. And these switches are typically going to be just layer 2. In some designs, you'll see that, hey, we want to have routing between the access and distro layer. Again, depends who you ask, and Cisco best practice has changed over the years. But typically, these are just going to be layer 2, just going to have VLANs running on them. And then your distribution layer. This is going to be the layer that provides all the routing policy for your internal traffic. So all traffic that's going to be used for your end users and your endpoints to access local network resources or enterprise resources. So they're also going to be applying filtering and ACLs. And the distribution layer is where you're going to have all your subnets for all your VLANs. So at this distribution layer, you're going to see a lot of SVIs created, switch virtual interfaces, as the layer 3 default gateway for all the VLANs we have in our access layer here. And then also typically, you're going to see a lot of your server farms for your internal domain network resources be connected off the distribution layer, right? Because this distribution layer switches are generally going to be those big chassis switches. Now we have these 9300 series that work for distribution layer, but a couple years ago, it's like 10. When I first started, we were on the 65 and 4500 series router or switch series. And those are typically your distribution layer, when you have the supervisors, those big chassis. And then we have the core layer. This is going to be your biggest and fastest devices that are going to aggregate all traffic in your campus that wants to reach out to the internet. So this is your backbone, right? The backbone of your infrastructure, because at the core layer, you're taking all this traffic, all this internal traffic to include the servers, your endpoints, all the VLANs, all your subnets. And typically you're going to have a layer 3 routing here. And then these core switches are going to route all traffic out to the internet. Okay, so that's the Cisco 3-tier core topology. Another thing to note, kind of more exam, right, not real world, is that the 3-tier core topology is for large networks that have exponential growth potential. I think I spelled that right. So this is not for your small to medium-sized businesses. This is for your large campus networks, okay? Your big enterprises are going to want to design like this. And what this design does is allows robust communication and availability of all network resources, especially when you're thousands and thousands of users on your enterprise and your network. Okay, and then we have the collapsed core topology, which is essentially going to combine that core and distribution layer, which is why we teach the 3-tier one first, because now we already went over what those layers do. And we're going to collapse those two layers into one big robust chassis of a switch, call that the collapsed core. And that's going to take over the functionality of the core and distribution layer. So we still have all that policy-based routing for our users. And then we also have that aggregation at the core layer that goes out to the internet. Then our access layer or access switches stay the same. Again, kind of more on the exam and what you need to know. This is preferred for small to mid-sized businesses with minimal potential for growth. So this is for that company that has one office floor, right? They maybe want a collapsed core topology. And then we have a spine and leaf topology. So in the spine and leaf architecture, it's really made for max redundancy and consistent latency among all networking devices. So in the spine and leaf topology, we have our spine here, which can be related to like that core/distribution layer. And then every leaf switch is connected to the core switch. So because we have all these redundant connections, what happens is every single switch is always one hop away. And because of that, we get consistent latency among all of our network devices because every single network device is one hop away. So the spine and leaf architecture is really a full mesh for the leaf switches that provides layers of redundancy, right? And you see a lot of times this architecture we like to use this architecture as Cisco best practice when we're dealing with software-defined networking and controller-based networking. Because if we have one centralized controller that needs to implement policy across our entire campus network, we definitely want that consistent latency so we don't have some devices get configured at a point in time and some not. So spine and leaf topology is a great architecture for controller-based networking. Okay, now we're getting into our topology. So a star topology. This is a type of network topology in which every device in the network is individually connected to a central node, that node being like a switch or a hub. You see here, It looks like a star. Full mesh, we kind of just went over that spine and leaf. This is where every network node, right? So anything that's part of our network is connected to each other with a system or domain. Essentially what that means, right, is we have full redundancy amongst our devices. We have a full mesh. We're connected to everybody in our network. Then we have the bus topology. So a bus network is it's a LAN topology where each node, workstation, device, whatever you want to, whatever, right, an endpoint, it's going to be connected to one link or one shared medium, and they can only communicate with each other on that one segment, right? It's really simple and it's really reliable, but it's not as robust, right? And we don't usually see bus topologies in use anymore because that was really a 90s technology. However, the CCNA exam objectives want you to know these different topologies. All right, so that's going to be it for our network architecture lesson. I want to thank you everyone for viewing, and stay tuned for our next video.